I am Parker, and I use they, them pronouns.
And I'm Mike, and I am he, him, and whatever else fits. And this is the Graphic Novel Podcast. Welcome to our show.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, this is a show where we read graphic novels or sometimes some short comics, zines, things like that. And then we do a review discussion, and we can talk about a lot of different things on this show.
Sometimes we talk about divorce. Sometimes we talk about abortion. A lot of times we talk about queer issues.
We have kids and relationships, all different kinds of stuff. So so it's a cool show, and we're glad you're listening. And if you like our show, we'd appreciate if you go to
Twitter, go to Apple Podcasts, and give us a great rating. And if you leave a review, we may read it on the air.
And if you visit us at anchor.fm, Graphic Novel Podcast, you can actually leave a voice message that we can play on the air.
That's exciting. Do you remember growing up and hearing your voice, thinking how cool it would be to hear your voice on the radio? Yeah.
All right. Well, and on to today's show.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, Parker, how is it going?
It's going really good. How are you doing?
It's going really well. You've got some new glasses.
I do. My first pair of
like photo ray kind of
what do you call them? Transitionals. Yeah. Finally, some prescription
trans
sunglasses.
Glasses for the trans person.
Yeah. Whoop, whoop.
They look great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The nose, for years I've only had the plastic, and so these are my first, the first in a long time that have had nose pads, and so I think it's going to take a little getting used to.
Oh yeah.
I already feel like I need to pinch them in a little bit.
Oh yeah, maybe.
But I'm scared I'll break them.
Yeah, I know.
I tend to break things.
But they look good.
Thank you.
Let's see, we're just a couple weeks away from going to Emerald City Comic Con.
Yes.
Excited for that. It's going to be great.
Except
tiring and great.
What was that? There was something going on.
Oh, well, the coronavirus.
Oh, the coronavirus thing. If you're sick, please stay home. Yeah,
that's the big thing.
Yeah.
There's a few of these shows going, and people are like, if you're sick, don't bother coming.
Yes, please.
And things are going to get worse.
We're sorry you're sick, and we hope you feel better soon, but please keep it to yourself.
Yeah, things are going to get worse. Today is the final episode of our Black History Month.
I'm kind of surprised it didn't spread here more because Snohomish County was the first in the U.S., wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, now there's another one, but we won't get into all that.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it could spread more.
Yeah.
But today is the final episode of our Black History Month programs. A not final episode of doing Black creators, but we were just highlighting them for this month.
Yes. And a lot of them, this week's especially too, is talking about Black history specifically.
It is. Yeah, we did about half of Black history, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
Today's we'll get to in just a minute because I have some news. All right, a few news tidbits. The biggest one is that The Great Gatsby copyright ends at the end of this year.
That is pretty big.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be a big deal because that's ending. It's going to be pretty much a free for all that anybody can do anything with it. They said that people could do prequels. They could do just take those characters and put them in other stories. They could do all kinds of things.
Wow.
So, and that's, so I'm guessing that's like 70 years after, what is it? F. Scott Fitzgerald. Did he write that? Pretty sure.
I don't know names like that.
He's a famous person.
I know. I don't know names. I know, but I don't know names.
But shoot, I don't know what happened to this. The article disappeared. But
Mike, you could ask me the name. You could tell me the four names of I don't even know if there's 4 of them, of the bandmates in Coheed Cambria, and I couldn't tell you who you were talking about.
I know.
I don't know names like that.
I know. And
they just don't stick in my head. I don't understand it. They just don't.
I know. And that was something that I always did. I always was interested in that. But there is a new graphic novel coming out on The Great Gatsby. So there's
before it releases, though?
It's coming
How can
out
that happen?
Well, the company that the publisher is still the publisher. That was the original publisher. They've been bought out, but they're still around.
Okay.
And
so then
they're gonna they had something to do with it, but they're gonna still try and hold on to something because now anybody can publish it. It can go
not
public
now,
domain
but at the end of this year,
beginning of the.
But if they were to republish
it, they can't do anything.
Oh, they can't.
No, it has to do with the owner.
Oh, okay.
The owner, the creator.
Because isn't that some kind of Disney? Isn't that why Disney re-releases films all the time? Because
it has something to do with that. But they're the owners of them. It's theirs. So I think that's different than the person that wrote this book.
Okay.
It's a different type of copyright.
Interesting.
Yeah. But anyhow, so there's new graphic novel coming out, I believe, this summer.
And if it's from them, then they still kind of have a copyright on.
Right.
I wonder if that will prevent people from doing stuff.
No, they don't have any. They don't.
But if they create this new thing and it comes out before that even ends, they could. No.
Nope.
They won't do anything.
Nope. They said that what they're going to do is because they still sell a lot of copies of it.
Right.
And what they want to do is just try and keep it going somehow by still making money. They know they're going to start losing money. Of course
they want to make money.
They're going to start losing. It's not the income is going to go down probably significantly.
Huh.
Because anybody can publish it. They can do. There's already ones coming out.
They can take the whole work and just. Yep. Okay.
Anybody can.
Right.
Because it's an out of print book.
Right.
But anyhow, so that's a big deal, and I guess we could expect to see all kinds of great.
Are
Gatsby
you wanting
stuff.
to?
Nah, I'm not interested. I've never even seen it.
Have you? No, never.
Nope,
okay.
I'm not interested.
Okay.
But there's a book from Seven Seas Entertainment. Has nothing to do with that.
Moving next topic.
Yeah, it's called the series is The Cornered Mouse Dreams of Cheese, and I showed it to you when we were at Comics Dungeon. It is a manga. The second part is out too. It's called The Carp on the Chopping Block Jumps Twice. But it's an interesting thing. It's Kiyochi's always been a lady killer, so no one is more surprised than him when he falls in love with another man. But even though Kiyochi cares deeply about his wife, Imagase, he can't help but have a weakness for women. Oh, maybe that must be the guy, Imagase. When a young lady at Kiyochi's work gets a crush on him, it tests the bond between them. Can the two stay afloat in these troubled waters? It's all this stuff. The first book was about his wife sends a private eye to spy on him, and the private eye and him, that's who they are. These two end up being together because the private eye and him hit it off.
Interesting.
So it looked interesting.
Yeah.
I might still pick it up, but we'll wait on that. And one other thing. What book is this? This book is called Always Humans, graphic novel, a futuristic graphic novel from Ari North. And it is a sci-fi queer romance. It began as a webtoon back in 2015. It's being released as a GLAAD-sponsored graphic novel. So that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Let's see. A brief summary. In the near future, people use technology to give the illusion of all kinds of body modifications. But some people have Egan's syndrome, a highly sensitive immune system that rejects these mods and are unable to use them. And so it's got some nice looking artwork.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah, it looks good. So, I mean, it's anime/manga looking.
Yeah.
But it looks good. It's very colorful.
Oh, wow.
And it looks very dreamy.
Yeah.
Kind of look to it.
For sure.
But yeah, pretty cool. And that's it for the news. All right, let's get on to the big one.
The big one.
And it is big. It's Frank Big Black.
By Frank Big Black Smith, Big Black Stand at Attica.
And we got this at Comics Dungeon in Seattle on 45th. Just happened to see it on the counter, and it's brand spanking new. Literally came out this month. And I saw it, and I'm like, well, first of all, living in Buffalo. Attica is 45 minutes away.
Mm-hmm.
And, always heard about Attica. I was a kid when this took place.
Right.
But I don't remember it. Over the years, you hear stuff about it. And we'll talk about some people that we met that actually work there.
Mm-hmm.
But
not at the time.
No, not at the time. They're more my age.
But still.
But yeah. So why don't you give us an overview of what the book is about?
4 days in 1971 changed the course of American history, even though we don't learn about it.
Of course not.
This is the true story from the man at the center of it all. In the summer of 1971, New York's Attica State Prison is a symbol of everything broken in America: abused prisoners, rampant racism, and a blind eye turned toward the injustices perpetuated against the powerless. But when the guards at Attica overreact to a minor incident, the prisoners decide they've had enough and revolt, taking their jailers hostage and making demands for humane conditions. Frank Big Black Smith finds himself at the center of this uprising, struggling to protect hostages, prisoners, and negotiators alike. But when the only avenue for justice seems to be negotiating with ambitious Governor Nelson Rockefeller, Big Black soon discovers there may be no hope in finding a peaceful resolution for the prisoners at Attica.
Yeah. So let's go about the creators.
Yes.
Frank Big Black Smith was a former inmate at Attica Prison who was tortured by officers following the deadly 1970 uprising. After his release from prison, he kicked a drug addiction and worked as a substance abuse counselor. He also devoted his life to becoming the voice of his fellow prisoners in a 26-year lawsuit against New York State. Smith later became an advocate for the forgotten victims of Attica, a group comprised of surviving hostages and relatives of the dead prison guards who were believed to have been encouraged to accept limited benefits which barred them from suing the state. That is bullshit. They were killed by the fucking police.
Yep.
Smith married in 1983, studied to be a paralegal, and worked as an investigator for lawyers. Passed away at 70 years old in Kingston, North Carolina, after a long battle with cancer.
Kidney cancer.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, I just read it.
Jared Reinmuth has worked as an actor, writer, teacher, director, and songwriter. He made his acting debut at the 1994 Dionysian International Theater Festival in Italy in The Beekeeper's Daughter. And he went on to do a lot of other things. He began his writing collaboration with Frank Big Black Smith in 1997 while assisting his stepfather, famed Attica attorney Dan Myers. In 2017, at the suggestion of friend and colleague Patrick Kennedy, he joined forces with Pearl Battle Smith, who is Frank's widow.
Widow, yeah.
And an artist, Amazian, to put this book into a graphic novel, which is Big Black Stand at Attica. Also in 2017, Jared began his musical collaboration, doing an original music to accompany the book and to further explore Big Black's inspiring biography. I'd actually like to look for that. I didn't look for that. I forgot about it.
Yeah.
So Amazian grew up in Paris, France, with the comics of Frank Miller and Bill Sienkiewicz, the films of Bruce Lee, and soul music of 66 to 76. Amazian worked several years as an art director, illustrator, and graphic designer. Late in 2001, he finally jump-started his comic book career by writing several scripts, worked on the comics adaptation of Cuatro Manos with his favorite novelist, Paco Ignacio Taibo II. And he recently completed Miss Davis, a biopic of Angela Davis. She's in this book, right?
Yes, I believe so.
She was something with the Black Panthers, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The leader.
She was testifying, I believe.
Yeah. And he's also done some other. He also did. That's the final installment in his Soul trilogy, which also includes Muhammad Ali and Big Black.
Mm-hmm.
And the New York Times bestseller Muhammad Ali was written by one of his. I'm sorry, Sybil Tiutu de la Croix, and is Amazian's first comic work published in the U.S. He also did some other stuff, and this is his first original production in English. So he works with Jared Reinmuth on some other projects too. So that's very cool. I think that's how they got together. So the book is fucking amazing.
Amazing.
It is amazing in a horrific way. First of all,
artist is extremely talented. The art is
Jared,
amazing.
It is, because it starts with these
like posters.
They look like posters.
Yeah,
like posters or like headlines from newspapers.
Oh yeah,
but you're right.
too,
I think they look more like posters now that you're saying that. Like the very first page you open to once the book starts. It says the story of Big Black, plantation to plantation, and the artwork looks like early 1900s maybe type art.
Yeah.
Like the word, the font. It's not. It's maybe 50s. I don't know. It's not. It's not 2000.
I would say like 50. It looks kind of cartoony.
And maybe it's 70s. I don't know. But it could be. It looks like kind of like old comic books. So maybe that's maybe it is 70s. Maybe it is 70s to go along with it. Yeah. But the artwork is so fucking good. It is very realistic. Very realistic.
I mean, you can't tell if it's like a copy of a picture or or what. It's really good. I enjoyed that a lot. And it's the colors, it's all like a yellow.
Well, it's full color, and there's a couple.
But a lot of it, a lot of it's like I don't know how to.
It's muted browns and grays, and just these yellows, and.
I love it when artists can make you feel through just muting a color. You know, it's just amazing what can be done.
Jared's artwork is fantastic,
fabulous, love it.
I'm sorry. His story, Amazian's artwork.
Yes, right.
I'm sorry, mistake there. Yes, I think I said no. He's the artist.
Yes,
Jared's the writer.
The writer.
His stepfather.
Right, was the lawyer.
Correct. All right,
I'm sorry.
Sorry, we got it straight. But so the story is about these 4 days, about how horrific the conditions were, how bad it was, and what they wanted was some simple things. They have the 15 practical proposals of rebelling Attica prisoners. Why don't you just read a few of those things, like maybe the first handful or so?
Well, I mean, I feel like some of them are apply the New York State minimum wage law to all state institutions. Stop slave labor.
Yeah,
I feel like that is still something that needs to be worked on. Right? They don't get paid.
No, not enough.
And all censorship of newspapers, magazines, letters, and other publications coming from the publisher. Allow all inmates at their own expense to communicate with anyone they please. Let's see. Give us a healthy diet. Stop feeding us so much pork and give us some fresh fruit daily. Prisoners don't even get fresh fruit. I mean...
So in 1991, the minimum wage in New York was $1.60.
Give us a doctor that will examine and treat all inmates that request treatment. How is it possible that you're not getting a doctor when you need one?
In 1971, it was $1.60 an hour. Yeah, so they were probably making like 10 cents an hour.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, it was...
If that, yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Ridiculous. Less cell time, more recreation with better recreational equipment. I mean, honestly, remove inside walls. This is stuff that's like, really? Yeah. Allow New York State prisoners to be politically active without intimidation. I mean, some of the stuff is just so basic that it's hard to believe that it isn't a thing. It wasn't. And I mean, what I wonder is, I mean, I don't know a whole lot about prisons, to be honest. I do know that privatizing prisons is like the worst possible thing. And I know that racism is still rampant in prisons. And I know that there's still a lot of things that need to get fixed. And I wonder how many things on this list have even happened.
Well, I just doing a quick search. New York Times did a story in 2016 that was titled "Revisiting Attica Shows How New York State Failed to Fulfill Promises." In 2019, lawmaker proposes higher minimum wage for New York inmates. There is the Prison Minimum Wage Act. That's what they were trying to push.
Like I said, probably none of this has changed.
So what happened is you've got all these people. Well, first of all, Frank Big Black, him and a buddy did a stupid thing. That's how he ends up in prison. He's a big guy. He played football and all kinds. He's a massive man, and he decided that him and his buddy they knew where this drug house was.
And I don't think it was even that he wanted the drugs necessarily. Originally, it was just about the money.
There's the money. They were just
they
going.
Knew that they were
young.
There was gambling or something, right?
And they were going for the money. And then when they got there, they saw the drugs, and I think his buddy yells in the drugs too.
Yes,
and the
yes,
drugs
yes.
too. So give him all. Well,
But I mean, he
he's
did have
such a
he
big
did have a
guy.
drug addiction problem later on. So
Right.
he says right here that he was the highest he'd ever been the night that they busted him.
Yeah, exactly. So,
So-
well, they got all the drugs, so he
Here,
probably
what
got
are you going to
high.
do with it?
But what happens is he's an imposing figure. They both are wearing ski masks,
Yeah.
but they knew who he was. They probably knew his
Well,
voice, and
they knew the guy,
Yes.
the friend was dating
his sister.
the guy they stole from's sister. So
Mhm.
he's at his
Yeah.
apartment all the
Yeah.
time. Like,
Mhm.
oh gosh.
So
Okay, so they made a stupid decision.
mistake
He didn't deserve to end up where
at
he
a
ended up.
maximum security
Maximum
prison.
security prison. He did not. I mean,
No.
not that. I mean, honestly, the way that they run prisons here, we watched that documentary not long ago. It's probably a couple years now about I want to say Norway or Sweden,
where they don't even put them in.
No, they have a cabin.
They also don't have mass murderers and serial killers.
Mass murderers, no,
and
but
that kind of
there
stuff
were
either.
murderers there though.
Yes, but they weren't people that went and shot
But
up
they
50 people. And
no, but they gave them, they rehabilitated them. Like we do not have any sort of rehabilitation. It's just all about punishing.
I agree,
people.
and there has to be a middle ground somewhere, because there are people that belong in prison, pedophiles, murderers of children. I mean,
but they still deserve. I mean, they
deserve to be treated okay, but not necessarily that they deserve to be.
They're still human.
Get out.
I mean, I don't believe in the death penalty.
Yeah, I think I've changed my mind on that. There's too many mistakes. There's too many ways to make mistakes, and the biggest thing that they've gone by for years was eyewitness
testimony.
And we saw that on Adam. Adam ruins everything. Wasn't it?
No, it wasn't.
John Oliver?
Adam ruins everything. Did two things, but we just saw a magic.
Oh yeah, that
magic
too.
for humans, and he did it. He was he was a purse snatcher,
Mhm.
and he snatched this person's purse,
Mhm.
spoke to the person,
because he had
then stole the purse from the actor,
Mhm.
right, and then came back around the corner because he's a magician, so he's already right there, and now he's the cop, and they're like describing who this person was, and then they arrest somebody, and the eyewitness is like, oh yeah, that's definitely
Mhm.
him, even though the cop that
cop
they're
is the
talking
same
to
person.
is actually the
Yep.
person.
So people don't.
Yeah,
see.
eyewitness testimony
Yeah,
is like
it's horrible.
the worst testimony, the worst. Yeah,
But so,
but even DNA, they've
Yeah.
proven that.
although that has exonerated a lot of people,
And that's true.
but anyhow,
Probably a lot of white people mostly.
no, not always. Anyhow, Frank
Obviously,
Frank
not always.
he gets arrested. He goes to prison, and you hear about his background and stuff. You learn about all that, and the story jumps around a bit. It shows like
It does. It was
the
a little
time, like
confusing.
during the uprising, immediately after.
It was hard to put down.
Oh,
Just heartbreaking.
It was such a.
It does say on the back that it's for mature audiences, and they don't. I think that they do have a nude drawing, right?
Oh, I don't know.
But it's mostly, I think,
I don't
just
think
because
it's even
it's
that.
very
It's very
gory.
violent.
It's very violent and gory.
Yeah. So basically, what happens
talk
is, I mean, if you don't know the story, if you're
castration,
under
too.
50 years old, you probably don't know the story at all. Attica, maximum security prison. These prisoners finally have had enough. You read some of their wishes, that their demands, that they wanted just better treatment. And
I mean, it wasn't even demands. It was like, let's negotiate on these things.
yeah,
That's what they wanted, somebody to be willing to negotiate with them,
but
and they couldn't get
no. So what happens is the prisoners finally had enough, and they grabbed a bunch of guards as hostages. They were able to overthrow them,
but they didn't hurt
them.
They just
one guard got hurt because it turned out that a gate was malfunctioning. The lock on it malfunctioned.
But,
and when the prisoners,
but he would not have even been there.
No, they were going to leave him in there.
Yes, it was his own guards that were the reason that he was there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they never told him.
They didn't tell him what the plan was.
Well, because the guards, there was some trouble going on, so the guards were going to beat up some prisoners. And they locked the one guy out of his cell, or locked him in. And when everybody else got out, and they were going to go back and beat him up. And then it turns out that the guard didn't know what's going on here. And he's with all these prisoners.
He wasn't inside
He wasn't in. So then all of a sudden the prisoners start to take over, and he makes a beeline for the gate, and unlock the gate, and he slams it closed behind him, but it turns out the lock was malfunctioning, and when they all ran into the gate, the door fell right off.
Yeah.
And it fell on top of him.
Yeah.
And they just ran over it.
Did that guy end up dying? I can't
He
remember.
ended up dying.
I thought so.
Yes, but there's this one motherfucking horrible
Holt. I saw his
Holt
face.
His name, right?
The moment I saw him,
you could tell. Yes,
I was like, that fucker. I can't stand
There's
that guy.
so much racism. They use the N-word in here a lot because that's
so...
the white guards called these guys horrible things, just always over and over, just demeaning them.
And the first thing before I read it, that when I said that to you, is because they in their heads the black people are just slaves. That's what they are. That's what they've always been, and so they don't deserve any better treatment.
So they treat them just.
And then you laughed and you opened up that first page. It says plantation to plantation, and I was like, you're like, yep, that's exactly how they felt.
Yep, they felt that they were.
That's how
still
they treated
slaves.
them.
Yep, and they treated them that way.
Exactly.
And this Holt was,
and I'm curious again. I mean, I would hope that it's not that way, but I fear that it's still that way in the prisons.
Okay, well, we knew. My friend Steve knows a bunch of Attica guards, and I met them. They're all very tough people. They're all of them, male and female. They are not. I mean, it's a maximum security prison. They are tough people.
Yeah,
they're all bikers too. They all ride Harleys. They're not in a gang, which is kind of weird, but they all
for
are.
Buffalo, it's weird.
Seems like everybody in Buffalo leather jacket wearing Harley riders, tough, drink their fucking asses off. Never heard from the one guy that came to our wedding. Never heard.
Oh my God, this was the weirdest story. Okay, so we had a very small wedding. We are both penny pinchers. And so we wanted to try and, do the money or do the wedding on a low budget. And so we got married in March because most people don't get married in March. And so the prices for the hall were less. And so we didn't invite a ton of people. We kind of invited the basic group, right? I mean, we invited friends and family, but my whole side of the family was on the other side of the country. I invited all of them, but nobody could come other than my immediate family and a couple friends. And anyway, so we invite your best friend, Steve, and he was in the wedding, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, I told this person about the wedding, and he said he didn't get the invitation. And we're like, we didn't invite him, but I don't think we said that. I think we were like, oh, okay. And then you and I, like, to ourselves, we're like, oh, we didn't invite him? Why?
No.
Like, we've only met him twice. Like,
I hung out with him because I used to throw darts with Steve, and I'd see him.
But it wasn't like we didn't see him. But he came and he gave us a great gift, and I mean,
yes,
and had a lot of fun. He seemed to be having fun. But it was really
it
was so weird that. I guess he was hurt. He wasn't invited,
but we invited him, and he came.
So we did invite him, and he came, and
But the thing is, like him, always a nice guy, always nice to us. I never heard him say anything derogatory to about blacks or anything.
But when were you? I mean,
but I was never around him the way Steve had been around him, like on a weekend where they were out drinking all weekend, like at one of these bike festivals and stuff. But I knew another guy that Steve knew that I knew also was a Cheektowaga police officer who was racist as fuck.
Yeah.
And he was, and he said it. Yes, he said stuff before, and I'm like, oh, yeah, that's. And I'm guessing that a lot of these people probably are. And I mean, you put these people in prison, and a lot of them develop, if they weren't criminal or have these like chips on their shoulder, they develop it being in prison, dealing with this day-to-day stuff and dealing with guard. And it probably goes back and forth. Some guards probably go in there with an open mind, like they're just going to go do a job, and they end up becoming assholes.
You still have that white supremacy mindset from the beginning. And that there's people who you hear all the time, people who, go and shoot up schools, people who abuse their partners. You hear, oh, well, I was their neighbor for 20 years and he was such a nice guy. And like the way that they are to other people, they couldn't get away with being the shitbag that they are if they were that way to everybody. Exactly. So just because this person was nice to us, didn't show racism to us, doesn't mean that he wasn't racist.
Oh no.
And it doesn't mean that he was a good guy. We never saw him in that situation.
Exactly.
I would love
a big
to believe believe that he was a great guy and he was the,
the
good apple,
yep.
so to say. But I
don't know.
find it really hard to believe
Again,
that
these
person
guys
exists.
like him, he was a big built guy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so, I mean, so it was, I don't know. We don't know. There's,
I think it's absolute. I mean, I feel like we say this every week, at least every week this month. It is absolutely disgusting that this is not in our American history books.
no, this
story. I mean,
so
the details and graphic, stuff doesn't have to be, I guess, as
they don't have to make it as graphic
put
for
the gory
if they were going
stuff
to put
in there,
it in for
but
high school students or something.
Well, I'm sorry, high school students can see that. They can pay first person shoot 'em up games.
You're right,
they can fucking read this book.
You're right. So what happens is they take over the prison.
But also, I think that we should be learning about this far before high school.
Okay, I agree.
Anyway,
I mean, I think we're going to let our kids read it.
Yeah.
Big Black, because he's a big guy and he's respected by everybody from all sides, the Muslims, the Black Panthers, everybody respects him.
Mm-hmm.
They ask him to be like head of security just to make sure that nobody's fighting with each other, the hostages aren't abused, anything like that. And one of the hostages was injured, and he was actually somebody that was nice to Frank.
Mm-hmm.
And Frank got along with a lot of the guards. So to him, he tried,
which I think is another reason that pissed the fuckface off so much.
Yes, that some of the guards got along with him.
Yes.
That he was, but there was one guard when this thing started getting over. It was only 4 days long. After a couple of days, there was one guard when they were, that was like, I don't think this is right. We shouldn't be doing this. And they're like, well, if you don't like it, you can leave. So I'm sure there were, and there still are good people, but we don't know what the percentage is of that. There's always bad people in every profession. There's always going to be bad people.
Yeah, I mean,
in this type of situation,
I do not give cops the benefit of the doubt ever.
No, and what he says is later on too is that after he was out of prison and everything, he fought for prison reform and stuff. And from the time that this ended to the time 1996 or whatever, there was like almost three times as many prisoners in New York and prisons too. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like they did any prison reform. They just started throwing more people in jail.
Well, yeah. And I mean, look at the stop and frisk shit that was happening. Thank you, Bloomberg. And putting even more Black and brown kids in jail because, that's the way it worked. That's racism. It's just absolutely horrible.
So what happens is,
fill up those private prisons, make some more money.
Well, exactly. So, this isn't a new story. This happened in 1971. So we're not giving any details that people don't know. The story though should be read. It's this book is so good. But what happens then is
tears. I sat in a brewery and was reading this while the kids played, and I was bawling.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah.
The governor, Nelson Rockefeller, descended of the Rockefellers. He was a rich man. He was governor of New York, aspirations to be president.
Of course.
And he orders the National Guard to go in and just kill. Because they took over like the main courtyard area. Yeah. That's where the prisoners were. They had tents and everything. They were camped out in there. So they just flew in with fucking helicopters and just started machine gunning these people down. Maybe not machine guns, but they were shooting them.
Yeah.
They shot 10 guards. They killed 33 prisoners before they were finally able to stop the riot and take the prison back.
And this was before. Oh, no, I'm sorry.
And go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and Nixon was the president at the time, and he was all behind it. He was like,
oops,
whoa, watch your head there.
Sorry.
Yes, he was,
Nixon,
him and Rockefeller are like, yeah, this is a good idea. We're going to do this. Nixon's like, okay, I've got your got your back.
Yeah. Oh man, that made me angry.
Yeah. But it was horrible. Big Black didn't get shot or anything, but this guard that was there in the prison
was
watching him the whole time. And he's like,
yes, there's a guard.
Hey, and when this is over, you're mine.
Yeah, this is your day, but I'm going to have mine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what he said. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And when it was over, They stripped him. They laid him out on a table and they beat the fuck out of him. They took their rifle butt and they were jamming it into his nuts. And he said he bled. He peed his testicles for months.
Yeah.
He peed blood for months. I mean, they made him hold. He was the football coach at the prison, and they made him hold a football under his neck. And if he dropped it, they were going to kill him.
Yeah.
I mean, how fucking horrible. It's like, you survived this and you didn't really do anything either. You weren't a bad person during this. They didn't watch him beating, but what they did,
they claimed that he castrated one of the guards that
shoved the testicles in the guard's mouth too,
which didn't happen.
And the media
didn't even
played into all of this. They were all complicit.
Oh, yep. The guard was castrated. Like, this is the news that went out, that there was a guard castrated and blah, blah, blah. And so then all the burial happens. I mean, we're skipping around a lot. I guess that's kind of how the story goes, because it was hard to follow sometimes. But at the end, near the end, they're talking about how there was the funeral, and then all the bodies had to go back to be examined
because
again.
they had new autopsies done on them.
They had new autopsies because they, not one of the guards had anything wrong with them other than
gunshot, and some of them were from behind too.
From behind,
which means they were shot from behind. Because
they weren't aiming, and they were just fucking shooting. They saw bodies and just shot at them.
Yep. And a bunch of the people that Big Black talks about, that were friends of his and involved in this, they were killed. They were killed during this. But in the back of the book, they list all of the people, because even they stood in solidarity with all of the murdered people, including the guards, and that's why he was part of this whole thing. Because, like they said, the relatives of these guards had to take a minimum payout from the state in order not to sue them. Otherwise, they weren't going to give them anything, and they'd have to go through lawsuits and stuff. So they didn't want to get involved in it. It's like, all right, fine, you're going to give us whatever you were going to give us, fine. So he sues the state. 26 years takes to get through this, and he wins $4 million. Huge, the largest amount they said a prisoner had ever won in the country.
But he didn't really win it.
He didn't win it, of course, because they appealed it, and
2 years later
lost it all, and it ended up, there were like almost 1,200 prisoners that were involved in this, and they ended up settling with the state $12 million to split amongst all of them. And he never says that the money was anything. The money was not,
because it
what
wasn't
he wanted.
About the money.
It wasn't about it was about punishing the state, but it wasn't about the money. It was about trying to get justice for all these people.
Yeah.
And they tried to take anybody that was involved in this and extend their prison sentence. And he said not too long after, was it months after, they dropped all those charges and he got out on time, which was like just a couple of years later.
Right.
But
with $40 in a suit
and a brand new suit. But yep, and that was something that he learned about early in the story too. But and like this news article from the New York Times sounds like, and even from last year, they're trying to raise the minimum wage in the prisons, because they use them in New York and probably other states to do license plates. And
Bloomberg forces the prisoners to make political calls.
He doesn't force them. They're paid their 10 cents an hour or whatever. But yeah, so I mean, it's labor, especially in these for-profit prisons.
Please don't vote for Bloomberg.
Their goal is to make money. Their goal is to make money. Yep. So if they can make money off these people,
of course it is. Well, they're making money off of them being there in the first place.
But even more so, I mean, if the state was running it, it's one thing. But these people, they're for-profit. They're probably not giving them the best meals, because their goal is to keep it as low cost as possible.
Yeah.
So I mean,
prisons should never be for profit, and healthcare should never be for profit.
No. But again, this and for years, he had PTSD from being tortured afterwards.
Probably forever. I'm sure he always did. Yeah.
His wife he met this wonderful woman, Pearl, who married him and stood by him the whole time. Yeah. And she said she would come in the bedroom and find him cowering under the bed in the fetal position because he had a nightmare. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is a huge man who was brought down to nothing. I mean, it
he
is
wasn't nothing. He made a huge difference.
no.
But I see what I know what you're saying.
And
I know what you're
I
saying.
agree. I didn't mean it that way.
I know.
But
Yeah.
mentally they
Yeah.
tried to destroy him.
Yeah.
But he
went on to do amazing things. And
he did. And this book is so good.
Yeah.
It is so good. The art is amazing. The story was put together so good.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And it's again, they don't say it, but Nelson Rockefeller became vice president.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't say it. You saw the picture. And
yeah, is that I didn't know any
I'm
of
going to
that.
say they don't talk about it. They just show a picture. But they show him with a prostitute. And he dies, but the headlines don't say that.
The headline said that he died of a heart attack, but it doesn't say what he was doing when he had the heart attack. But have you heard that before? Because I'd never heard that before.
I've never looked into it, but I'm guessing it's.
I wouldn't be surprised. I guess I should say.
Exactly. So good for him. So he lost. He would never become president, which I think made Big
and a
Black
sex
happy.
worker, not a prostitute.
Okay, I'm sorry. But I think that made Big Black happy that he'd never become president.
I don't think that. Okay, that he'd never. Okay, yeah, yes, that he'd never become president. Yes,
I don't care. Oh no,
not that he died because
I don't know. I don't know because
I don't know.
He ordered these people to come in and just shoot.
I know, but I kind of feel like Big Black was not the kind of person who would ever celebrate somebody's death. I don't know. I just kind of get that feeling about him.
You're probably right. But he had unfinished business after he got out of prison. He wanted to go back to Rockefeller and get them to, Yeah,
they didn't. He didn't want him to even be. Wasn't that part of it too? He testified to.
He didn't want him to be vice president.
Right.
Yeah, because he. I don't know what happened. Maybe after. It was probably after Nixon resigned, and Ford became president. That's when he became vice president.
I don't know. I don't know my history. Oops. I don't know the history of that well enough to know how all that happened.
Yeah, but that's probably what happened. Nelson Rockefeller.
Because our schools do such a good job of teaching us history.
Yeah. But he died. Oh, he died in 1979.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure, but he never got to be president, which is good. Yeah, it says he was vice president from 74 to 77. Yep, that would have been 74 would have been the time. So it had to be under Ford. So so they had to and Big Black testified and said this man should not be, but it was still flew through confirmation without a problem.
Well, of course. Well, but I mean, there were quite a few nays, though, right? Or am I thinking of something else? I'm thinking of something else. I think
maybe, but it was. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
you can look if you.
I know. I want to know for myself. Go ahead.
But I mean, this book is really good. I love the artwork.
Rockefeller sworn in as vice president after confirmation by House 287 to 128. So 128 said.
Oh, it was.
Plenty said yes.
It was plenty said yes. It was. I might have been more on party lines than anything.
Probably.
But yeah. So.
Please go to the bookstore.
Yeah.
Get it. Big Black Stand at Attica.
Yes. If you want to read horrible.
It's not about whether you want to. Everybody should.
Okay. If you want to read about a horrible part, another horrible part of history.
You don't have to want to. You just need to do it.
Again, that targeted a lot of black and brown people.
Mm-hmm.
There were white people in there, but you don't see too many. A lot of the guards were white.
And pigs with their masks on.
Oh yes, they showed them with
gas masks.
Yeah, with gas masks.
Oh, they're drawn like pigs.
And they made them look like pigs.
I mean, maybe they didn't do it intentionally, but that's what I saw.
They did.
It was evil. Fitting for sure. Yes.
But this is a great book, and it's a good way to end our Black History Month.
Yes.
But anything else?
I don't think so.
No, it was really enjoyable.
Head out, buy it now.
Yeah,
now. Go.
Might be available online too. I mean, on Hoopla or one of those
price
things.
is $19.99.
Yeah, it's full color, so it's really worth it.
Yeah, it's kind of a funky size. What size is this?
No, that's like a lot of the graphic novel size. But it's good. It's great. And Yeah, it's
Important.
important.
I think
And
we will.
you know, I'd heard about Attica, and this really gave a first-person account of
I
that.
had never heard about this story.
Yeah.
I mean, not really surprising, but I'd
Mhm.
never heard of the story before.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. Next week we'll be back with one of our podcast stories
One of
from
my favorite podcast artists.
Yes,
book.
we will be reading that. We already read it, so we're ready for that one. All right. Until then, my name is Mike.
And I'm Parker.
And this is the
Graphic Novel Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Graphic Novel Podcast.
Make sure you find us on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter at Graphic Novel Pod.
The other places, I think it's Graphic Novel Podcast, but it's Graphic Novel Pod on Twitter.
I was surprised I remember that much. So
I know, because you know what? I would not have remembered that. That was good. And if you like the show, please go to your favorite store that you listen to podcasts and at least give us a 5-star. Or if you have the time, leave a review. You can send us an email at graphicnovelpodcast@gmail.com.
Tell your friends about us.
Definitely tell your friends about us. Check us out. Visit us on social media, on Twitter. That's where I am the most. It's on Twitter. I try to avoid Facebook at all costs. And you can also, if you go to anchor.fm /graphic novel podcast, you can go to our site and you can leave us a voice message. And if you leave us a nice message, maybe we'll play it on the air. Is that it? Nothing else? You don't want to say anything else?
Nope.
Good for you, Krabby Butt.